Hello everyone, welcome to my channel English Literature Made Easy with Saswati. A lot of you have been requesting me to make videos on literary theory and literary criticism. So I thought of making this video especially for you, which will be based on literary theory. So here in this video, I'll be discussing two important schools of literary theory such as practical criticism and new criticism. Along with that, I'll be discussing three important concepts associated with new criticism. They are close reading and intentional fallacy and affective fallacy. So if you want to make your concepts clear, if you want to have a proper understanding of these key concepts of literary theory, then do watch the video till the end, and I can assure you that by the end of the video, all your concepts will be clear. The term practical criticism started with an experiment performed on Cambridge undergraduate literature students by I. Richards. He was an English poet, critic and teacher. So he gave poems to students in which the titles and authors' names had been removed, and there was no mention of the time when they were written. The idea was that the students should not know if the poem was written by Chaucer or Shakespeare or John Donne. They should just read the poem and analyze it. Later, I. Richards explored these findings from the experiments in the companion volumes titled Principles of Literary Criticism and Practical Criticism. Now let's see what was the objective of this experiment. The objective of this experiment was to encourage students to concentrate on the words on the page rather than on such other outside informations like the name of the author, the time of its publications, the social and cultural influences on the author, and so on. I. Richards is best known for advancing this method of close reading of poetry, which led to the theory of practical criticism. It focused on increasing the analytical powers of the readers. Richards believed that this form of close reading of anonymous texts had psychological benefits for the students, as they were responding to the various emotions in their minds after reading and looking for meaning in the poems. Along with I. Richards, other Cambridge critics such as F.R. Lewis and William Empson were also devoted to the close examination of English literary texts, which changed the course of English literary studies from the 1920s onwards. Lewis's quarterly Scrutiny, which was published from the year 1932 to 1953, offered reviews and analysis of works from Chaucer to all the major modern writers. On the other hand, William Empson, who was I. Richards' most influential student, developed the study of the close reading of poems in the book 7 Types of Ambiguity. Here, he unravels the complex and multiple meanings of poems. Now let's see what is Empson's idea of ambiguity. When we use the word ambiguity, we mean to be being puzzled or being confused. Empson explores this idea of ambiguity while reading poetry, as there are multiple meanings of individual words. So 7 Types of Ambiguity talks about the flexibility and openness of English words or phrases to more than one meaning. Empson deals with poetry from Chaucer to T.S. Eliot. This book by Empson laid the foundation of the school of literary theory known as New Criticism in the United States. Now let's see what is New Criticism. New Criticism was a school of formalist literary theory that dominated American literary theory from the 1930s till the 1950s and the early 1960s. While it was I. Richards who paved the way for the school of New Criticism, it derived its name from John Crowe Ransom's book The New Criticism, which was published in the year 1941. Since New Criticism develops out of practical criticism, so just like practical criticism, New Criticism also does not focus outside the text, such as the biographical details of the author or the age or time in which a work of literature is produced. Then what is the focus of New Criticism? Now please tell me, how do you expect others to see you? Do you want others to see you based on what they have heard about you from others, or you want them to see you based on your own words and actions? Rather than judging you or making perceptions about you based on what they have heard about you from others, I'm sure you will want others to see you based only on your words and actions. So same is the case with New Criticism. New Criticism offers literary analysis based only on the text and nothing else. As I have mentioned already, New Criticism was a school of formalist literary theory, and formalism dealt with the structural aspects of a text. So New Criticism focused exclusively on the form of the text and such other internal aspects of the text, such as the rhyme, the meter, symbol, metaphor, image, setting, characterization, and plot. It believed that the form and the content of the text are closely connected and they cannot be analyzed separately. It believed that the literary text is autonomous and self-sufficient. It means that the unity and meaning of a literary text is constituted by its formal and rhetorical aspects. So new criticism believed that the text's meaning was to be found through a careful study of the words on the page. So it doesn't bother about the author's intention or how a work is a product of a particular age, time, society, or culture for that matter. For example, if we want to do a new critical reading of Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe, then we have to avoid reading it as an anti-slavery novel, even if this novel was instrumental in bringing an end to the inhuman practice of slavery. Similarly, if we want to do a new critical reading of Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, then we have to avoid reading it as portraying the class hierarchy of the English society of the 14th century. Instead, we should just focus on the internal elements of the text, such as plot and setting, and see how it turns out to be a unified text. Now let's understand the concept of close reading. Close reading is a method used by the new criticism or by the new critics, especially for poetry. Through the method of close reading, new critics tried to show how a piece of poem functioned as a self-contained individual and autonomous work of literature without taking into account the historical context or the social influence on the text. Now let's look at some of the prominent new critics. So some of the prominent new critics are I. Richards, William Empson, John Crowe Ransom, Alan Teat, William K. Wimsatt, Clint Brooks, Robert Penn Warren, and Affer Lewis. Now let's find out some of the major influences in the development of new criticism. So the first major influence was T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot was a major influence in the development of new criticism. Eliot's idea of the impersonal theory of poetry, which was developed in the critical essay, Tradition and the Individual Talent, greatly influenced in the development of the school of new criticism. The essay, Tradition and the Individual Talent, was published in the year 1919. Eliot's theory of impersonality stressed that the poet and poetry are two separate things. It focuses on the poetry and not on the poet. And this very idea is also shared by the school of new criticism. The second major influence is William K. Wimsatt and Monroe Beardsley. Wimsatt and Beardsley were also very instrumental in the development of new criticism. They were the ones who talked about intentional fallacy and affective fallacy. Now let's first see what was intentional fallacy. In 1946, William K. Wimsatt and Monroe Beardsley published a classic new critical essay named The Intentional Fallacy. In that essay, they argued that it is irrelevant to know the purpose or intention of the author in the analysis of a literary work. So what intentional fallacy means is that since the author is not a part of the text, it is an error or a mistake to derive meaning of a literary text based on the author's intention, attitude, emotion, or biography. The author does not have any control over it once it is out for the public. So if a poet makes a statement about a poem in a magazine or a journal, then that cannot be considered a part of the poem. According to Wimsatt and Beardsley's idea of intentional fallacy, it would be totally wrong to bring the author and his or her intention in the midst of a literary analysis. So don't bring the author back to the words on the page. The text is autonomous and self-sufficient, and let it remain so. And this is not me saying, but it is William K. Wimsatt and Monroe Beardsley saying with regard to intentional fallacy. Now let's see what was affective fallacy. The affective fallacy was a kind of sister essay to intentional fallacy written by the duo Wimsatt and Beardsley. Affective fallacy is the error of effect on the reader. The reason is a text will have a certain effect on me as a reader, and it will have a completely different effect on you. For example, I might not like the ending of Romeo and Juliet. Perhaps I would have loved it if the lovers were alive and the play had a happy, successful conclusion. But your reading of the play might be completely different from me. You might like the tragic conclusion of the play. So it is a mistake on the part of a critic to analyze a literary text based on its emotional effect on the reader. For Wimsatt and Beardsley, a text is an autonomous entity and it is complete in itself. It is independent of both the author and the reader. Hence, it should be evaluated based on its textual elements such as syntax, plot, characterization, setting, and so on. So as you can see, new criticism had a scientific and an academic approach to literary studies. It focused on the literary text itself as the object of study, and it did not view it as a product of the society or the author's inner self. So that's all for this video. I hope you have understood the concepts of new criticism, practical criticism, close reading, intentional fallacy and affective fallacy that were discussed in this video. So if you like the video and understood all the concepts, then do like it, share it, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so that whenever I post new videos, you are the first person to get notified. And also do follow me on Instagram and my Facebook page, English Literature Made Easy with Saswati, to get literary updates and quizzes every day. So that's all for today. I hope to see you soon in another video with a new topic, and if you have any suggestions, any requests to make videos on particular topics, do write it in the comment below. Till then, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.